Police station. Detective Marcus Johnson sifts through case files at his desk, coffee in hand, when his partner approaches. Partner. Hey Johnson, we got a weird one. Double homicide in Oakdale. Parents were Claus Jackson and Martha Jackson. Johnson. Really? On Christmas Eve, no less. Think it's just a B&E gone wrong? Partner. Dunno, the perp took some souvenirs according to the report. Left the kid alive, though. 10-year-old daughter Samantha found the bodies. Johnson sighs, setting down his mug with interest piqued. Johnson. Some people just have no Christmas spirit, I guess. All right, you finish up here. I'll head over and see what we're dealing with. He gathers his things and heads out, mentally preparing for a grim scene. Little does he know, this case will uncover dark family secrets long buried in the sleepy town of Oakdale. Jackson House, living room. Johnson arrives at the taped-off crime scene, surveying the aftermath of violence. Forensic investigators work meticulously while the coroner wheels out 2 body bags. A family photo on the mantel catches Johnson's eye, a happy image marred by tragedy. He notices odd clues that don't quite add up, like claw marks with no weapon. Johnson's gut tells him this is no ordinary home invasion. As he questions the distraught girl Samantha, her strange description of a lumbering intruder with glowing eyes piques his interest. This case may run deeper than a simple murder. Johnson is determined to get to the bottom of the dark secret haunting this family and the town of Oakdale itself. But he soon realizes some mysteries are better left buried. How's that? I aim to set up some intrigue and mystery around the murder investigation while hinting at deeper secrets lurking beneath the surface of this small-town family. Let me know if any part of the introduction needs more context or expansion. Jackson household, living room, Christmas Eve, night. The Jackson family sits around the fireplace, opening presents on Christmas Eve. Mom and Dad smile as their children, 10-year-old Samantha and 8-year-old Benny, tear into gifts with glee. Samantha. Look, it's the new tablet I wanted. Thanks, Santa. Benny. Awesome. A remote control car. You're the best Santa. Dad. I'm glad you kids are happy. Now hurry and get to bed so Santa can come. The kids scramble off to bed as Mom and Dad clean up wrapping paper. They share a content smile, satisfied their children are enjoying the holidays. Samantha lies awake in bed, too excited to sleep. She scrolls on her new tablet when suddenly a loud crash comes from downstairs. She jumps up and runs to the staircase. Samantha peers down to see a shocking scene. Her parents lie motionless on the floor as a shadowy figure drags a large sack across the room. Samantha gasps in terror. The figure stops and slowly turns towards the noise. 2 glowing red eyes pierce the darkness and lock onto Samantha. She screams and bolts back to her room as heavy footsteps pursue her up the stairs. She slams and locks her door just as a meaty fist pounds against it. The figure growls in rage outside. Samantha falls to the floor, hyperventilating in panic. She grabs her tablet with shaky hands and calls 911 with a whispered voice. Samantha, whispering, Please help. Someone broke into my house. I think they killed my parents. Okay, sweetie, stay very quiet. Help is on the way. I need you to be brave. Samantha ends the call and buries her face in her knees, trying to muffle her cries. Suddenly, an eerie laughter echoes through the house, sending a chill down her spine. Then, silence. She risks a peek out her door's crack. The hallway is empty. Slowly, she emerges and looks around the corner to the top of the stairs. In the dim light shining up from below, she sees her parents sprawled at unnatural angles at the bottom. Blood pools around them. She gasps and claps a hand over her mouth, eyes welling with tears. A dark figure suddenly appears at the bottom of the stairs, dragging the large sack. It slowly turns its head, two blood-red eyes meeting Samantha's gaze. It grins, razor-sharp teeth glinting in the half-light, then lets out a bone-chilling laugh. Samantha screams and backs away in horror as heavy footsteps start up the stairs once more. Police cars arrive with flashing lights as neighbors gather, drawn by the commotion. Officers rush inside while an ambulance arrives. Soon, paramedics emerge, wheeling out two bodies on stretchers, covered in sheets. A distraught Samantha is escorted out in a blanket, speaking to an officer beside the ambulance. Nearby, Detective Marcus Johnson, 40s, oversees the scene. Detective Johnson. What do we got? Officer Kowalski. Double homicide. Parents are DOA. Girl says an intruder broke in and attacked them. She locked herself in her room and called it in. Detective Johnson. Any sign of the intruder? Officer Kowalski. None, but the house is a wreck. Looks like there was a struggle. We've got a murder scene here. Detective Johnson surveys the chaotic yard with a somber expression. This will be a difficult case to solve. Next morning, Samantha sits with a cup of cocoa, exhausted and despondent. Detective Johnson enters and takes a seat across from her. Detective Johnson. Hey, Samantha. I know this is hard, but I need to ask you some questions, okay? Can you tell me exactly what happened last night? Samantha sniffles and nods, recounting the events in a shaky voice. Detective Johnson listens attentively, taking notes. Samantha. Then when I looked downstairs, I saw Mom and Dad on the floor. There was so much blood, and that thing was just standing there smiling at me with red eyes. Detective Johnson. Can you describe this intruder at all? What did it look like? Samantha shakes her head, clearly distressed. Samantha. I didn't see. It was too dark. But it was big and had glowing red eyes and really sharp teeth when it laughed. Detective Johnson frowns, finding the details concerning. He comforts the distraught girl. Detective Johnson. It's okay. You're safe now. We're going to find who did this, I promise. Try to get some rest. He gathers his things to leave. As he exits, his troubled expression shows this is no ordinary case. Forensics lab. Detective Johnson surveys evidence laid out, the bloody crime scene photos, torn pieces of red fabric, strange clawed footprints. The coroner approaches, pulling off latex gloves. Coroner, blunt force trauma to the head was cause of death for both victims, but there are also long slashes in their torsos that don't match a normal weapon, almost like claw marks. Detective Johnson. Claw marks, like an animal. Coroner, bigger than any animal I've seen. Whatever did this was extremely strong. Detective Johnson picks up a swatch of red fabric with a puzzled look. Detective Johnson. Where did this come from? It wasn't in evidence photos. Coroner. That's just it. I didn't log this in. It was just sitting on the tray with the other items when I got here. Detective Johnson frowns, troubled by this strange clue. Something doesn't add up about this case. Jackson Funeral Home. Day. Samantha stands between her grandparents at her parents' wake. They gently console the crying child as mourners pay respects. Detective Johnson approaches to offer condolences. Detective Johnson. I'm so sorry for your loss, Samantha. Is there anything else you can tell me to help find who did this? Samantha wipes her eyes, looking distressed. Samantha, please, I just want to forget about it. I don't like remembering. Grandfather. I'm afraid she said all she knows, Detective. Please don't upset her further. Detective Johnson sighs, understanding but clearly still hoping for a breakthrough. He shakes their hands and departs with one last unsure glance at Samantha. Jackson household, living room, night. Samantha and her grandparents enter the dark crime scene cleaned home. Grandmother turns on lights with a shiver. Grandmother. I'll never get the image of them on the floor out of my head. Grandfather comforts her as they head upstairs. Samantha lingers behind, looking around the eerily quiet room. Her eyes fall on a spot near the Christmas tree. She sees a faint red stain blending into the carpet fibers. Memories flood back as her breathing quickens. Grandfather notices her panic and rushes over, holding her protectively. Grandfather. It's okay, sweetie, you're safe now. This is our home and we won't let anyone hurt you. Let's go to bed. He soothes her as they climb the stairs. But in her mind, Samantha remains haunted by the scene of her parents' murders. Samantha's bedroom. Samantha lies awake, staring at shadows on her ceiling. Muffled arguing drifts from downstairs, but she tries tuning it out. Suddenly, she hears a floorboard squeak outside her door. She freezes, holding her breath, as heavy footsteps approach down the hall. A dark shadow passes under her. Samantha clutches her blankets in fear as the doorknob slowly turns. She stifles a scream as the door creaks open, flooding the room with light from the hallway. A hulking silhouette fills the doorway, two glowing red eyes locking onto Samantha's wide gaze. She trembles helplessly as it takes a heavy step into the room. Grandfather appears behind the figure, placing a hand on its shoulder. Grandfather. There. You know you're not supposed to scare the girl. Come on now, off to bed with you. The red-eyed figure turns, revealing itself to be Samantha's Uncle Frank, 40s, towering over Grandfather. His glare softens as he looks back at Samantha. Uncle Frank. Sorry, Squirt. Didn't mean to frighten you. Grandfather guides the reluctant Frank away, shutting the door behind them. Samantha lets out a shaky breath, trying to calm her pounding heart. She peers out her window at the full moon, seeing faint reflections in the snow below, two glowing red orbs staring back. A chill runs through her as she realizes with dawning horror, the intruder that killed her parents is closer than she thinks. The next day, while her grandparents are out, Samantha does some digging. In the basement, she discovers a hidden room, and inside, a shocking revelation that changes everything. She races to Detective Johnson with what she has found. After verifying Samantha's claims, he hastens to the Jackson house with his weapon drawn. A confrontation ensues that leads to the true culprit finally being unmasked. In the aftermath, though justice has been served, Samantha remains scarred by traumatic events of Christmas past. With support of loved ones like Detective Johnson, however, she finds the strength to move forward and begins to believe the real spirit of the season is rekindled within her heart once more.